what are the differences between Super Rugby preseason and an NRL preseason?
Yeah, it's a lot tougher, just in terms of the load, because the preseasons are a fair bit shorter. Well, compared to what I'm used to in Union, we would start first week of October, whereas we would start first week of December in league. In Union, they kind of, because they've got that longer time frame, they can kind of ease you into it a little bit better. Obviously, you have all your fitness testing straight off the bat, and yeah, it was my first session back. I was like, oh, I'm going to be all good. I'm like pretty fit. And yeah, we did like 8 kilometers in that first session, and I was cooked. Like my legs were hanging on. The humidity up here is something I'm not used to. The difference how it shapes up, obviously in Union, it's kind of hard to get your fitness in the actual training session because, Union, it's so much more stop-start, ruck speed, like defences can really control how quick you're playing. Whereas in league, what I've noticed so far is you're really able to get your fitness hit whilst playing and whilst training the normal game. Like you don't have to have fitness games and things like that, even though they do drop them in. But I found league is a way more like fatigue-based game. So you'll see it even when you watch an Origin or even just a normal NRL on the weekends. Like when the ball's in play for a couple minutes, probably like 6-7 minutes, you just see how quickly that fatigue. It's almost like a flip of the switch. It's just like, righto, the boys look cooked now. So that's one thing I've noticed. And then to add to that, do a lot more wrestling.
Yeah.
So I'm wrestling a few times a week. So we'd be on field for probably 3 hours and then have a gym session and then have wrestling. So pretty solid day, especially when I wasn't used to that at all. So that first week I've never been as sore as that in my life.
Have you noticed a cult just on that? Because I noticed it. I was pretty involved with sort of Rugby Australia their way of thinking with, say, the Wallaroos or the 20s, that real dialed in analytic approach to training numbers and 3-minute blocks and running loads and high-speed meters. But then when I'd go over to my Storm, the detail was still there, but it was that real build resilience, 20-minute blocks, like 3-hour sessions. Have you felt that as a player?
Yeah, definitely in terms of the fitness too. So like you wouldn't just do like 3 sets of 10 fitness. It would be the way kind of all of that works is like we'd have like a fitness block at the end of the session, which would be like a 45-minute block. And it's just like you have 3 teams and 2 teams are playing against each other in like a game. And then the other team's either doing assault bikes off the field, wrestling off the field, they're doing con running off the field, and you're just rotating for 45 minutes kind of thing. Yep. So that's a bit of a difference too. And like I feel like as well in Union, they're really strict to the numbers.
Yeah.
Whereas league, it's just like, oh fuck, the boys are looking good. Let's keep pushing. Let's see how much we can get. Or if on the other hand as well, I've been like pretty impressed with the S&C and stuff, being like, geez, the boys look smashed. Like we've had a big week. Let's tone it back a little bit. We don't have to flog them here and get nothing out of it. So that was one thing that really impressed me coming in, because obviously you hear all the rumours and stuff about the boys just getting flogged and just being relentless in terms of that space. But yeah, it's really caring environment, and obviously they want the best for you. So flogging a dead horse isn't always going to get that. But then sometimes that's justified, getting the boys out there and just getting flogged.
I think there's a real understanding nowadays with fatigue in the NRL, like for spectators watching. I think like maybe what people didn't used to enjoy was the arm wrestle, but now I think there's a better understanding of the arm wrestle into that fatigue game that produces the product, and we kind of get a little bit more. Tackling was always a strength of your game. It was one of the big parts of your game that helped get you picked and selected and opportunities. How are you getting on with the wrestle? What are you enjoying about that?
Yeah, it's obviously you got more people in the tackle. But yeah, the wrestling sessions, I don't think I want to wrestle for a little while, man, to unlearn some dark art, some of the secrets. But yeah, it was pretty tough at the start, like in terms of just, it's not just power and strength. It's all technical, and there's like little skills and stuff. And you have some guys who just kind of think outside the box with that kind of thing. Like Good examples like Brian Kelly, one of the centers for the Titans. I did a few wrestle sessions with him, and he just little things like he would hold your thumb down and things like that on the ground, so it's uncomfortable to get up and play the ball. And like it'd move your wrists and hands and stuff, so it's like you can't just get up and play the ball quickly. Like you've got to readjust your grip, otherwise you're going to drop it. And just little things like that. Like most of the time, you wouldn't really think that's too important, but me having it happen to me, I'm like, geez, that actually made a big difference in terms of how I got up and played the ball. So, but yeah, the wrestling on field's it was fine. Because obviously you have roles. Like if you can make a one-on-one hit and kind of drive them back and be dominant in the tackle, that's what you want. But then on the other hand, like if you're that second man in and someone has gone a bit low, your job's to wrap up the ball, and then you're trying to get him on his back, east-west kind of direction. So they've got to get up and move and turn to play the ball. So it's pretty much all about slowing the ball down.
How did you go about, what was the plan those first few meetings like, sweet Carter, here's how we're going to support you on how to learn this game? Like, what was the plan there and what was the strategy? How did you attack that?
Yeah, well, I was lucky enough to get in for the back end of last year. And yeah, the coaches were really good with that. So I had meetings with them. After each session, I'd go up and see them. And because obviously I was brand new, I didn't really know anything.
Yeah.
I was training in the center, but we'd also review what the halves were doing, what other boys' roles were within the team. So, because it's pretty important, the same as union, like the more knowledge you have around certain positions, the more you know the game. So that was important to me, just catching up with them as much as I could. They put absolutely no pressure on me to really know anything or do anything like that, which I was pretty surprised with. And I got to 3 or 4 weeks in and I was like, oh, I want to play games now. So I went and saw Des and I was like, oh, like, I've been training, I'm pretty keen to play just for Tweed in the Q Cup. And I managed to get the last couple of games in for Tweed, which was a big learning kind of, I guess, step. Because, you know, training's a bit different to playing. So getting out there, played 2 games in the centres, 2 games at half, at 6. And, yeah, that was unreal. And I got to sit down with them after the games, go through all the footage, had Foz come out to games to watch, kind of give me feedback. Yeah, so it was really good. And even after that, there was kind of no expectation around me playing. More so just about me learning the game, heading into preseason. And yeah, they were kind of more keen than almost playing me at all last year, just to get me a preseason under my belt, because obviously they break down all the structure, all the calling system, all that stuff in the preseason. So you kind of get ahead of it then.
Your first few training sessions, is there any of those rugby things that you found yourself doing, or placing the ball on the ground, those types of things? And then the next part of this I want to go into, how are you finding the space? Like obviously there's that 10 meters. It feels like go forward rugby. Has that been your experience or not the case?
Yeah, it has been. It's been a little bit different, but in terms of bringing over rugby stuff, there wasn't too much that I did differently. Maybe there was probably 2 main things, which was how I carried the ball, because I would always kind of cut and like kind of dip my head into contact and kind of like brace that way.
Yeah.
Which those boys weren't used to tackling. So it was pretty funny at the start. They're like, holy shit, what's going on here?
Cannonball.
Yeah, pretty much like cannonball, but then you risk getting knocked out that way. So had to change that a little bit, and then the next.
Why do you have to change that? Just for context. Why?
Well, mainly because like the way league tackle, it's obviously a little bit higher around the chest. So if I'm ducking my head into contact, it's a good chance you're going to get shoulder on head, and that's pretty dangerous for one. Like obviously you might draw a penalty or whatever, but you're still ducking your height into the contact, which is pretty dangerous. But like obviously there's times where like if you're a 1-on-1, that'll be fine, but it's just when you're running into the line. But yeah, that second point is probably how I got into the line in attack. Was a little bit different to how we run it at the Titans. So I'd always kind of almost get the ball on a bit of an outer and square into the line. Or or I'd stay pretty square and just go square. Whereas as a 6 mainly, you kind of like that second ball receiver off the shape. So the 7 normally puts on the shape. The 6 is like that second kind of playmaker. And then you might have the 1 outside you. But I would always kind of get the ball from the other half and kind of square into the line. Whereas that's good sometimes, like say, I want to put my back rower over their half. That might be good because then I can isolate the half by turning into their back rower. But a lot of the time, like if we've got numbers or we've got to quick play the ball, I actually want to keep heading on the overs and try and get to there.
Yeah.
So for me, I felt like I was running sideways a lot because the inside defense is so good. You take one look like square, they just kind of cover you off and just keep sliding. So, the defense systems are a little bit different and their actions are different. So I kind of had to change the way I get into the line and the lines I'm running with the ball.
Are you finding, because rugby league's very repetitive, I'm sure you do a lot of the similar drills, you see a lot of the same pitches. Are you seeing more?
Seeing in terms of attack or...
Yeah, decision makings, familiar pitches, understanding like reads. Are you feeling like your decision making and what you're seeing is improving?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think it needs to be quicker. So that's one thing I've noticed as well is in union you'll have a fair bit of time to look up at the D. Obviously, when you're standing there waiting for the ball to ruck, or hopefully you're not, but sometimes you are. You get a fair bit of time to look at the D and kind of analyse what you're going to do. Whereas I feel like in league, even though you kind of have like 3 tackles to kind of build momentum, I guess, and then you have a crack, it's more that comes pretty quickly because the sets are rolling. So that's the difference between kind of IDing what you want in league is a little bit different because it's might only be one person. So if you're getting, say for example, the play the ball is in between the black dot, pretty much every defensive team is going to have five defenders each side.
Yep. So
what you're looking for as a half is if we're getting quick play the ball, we're getting momentum, boys are doing good carries, is one player left on the ground or whatever, that creates a 4-5. So you got 4 defenders covering half a field. So that's kind of the cues you're looking for in that area. And then you got to be quick and you got to be accurate with what you do off that.
Yeah.
Because you'll see some teams now, like Manly, they're running the ball on second and they're trying to get those, because defenses will tighten up around the yardage sets. And if you don't take that, you kind of lose an opportunity to get up the field. And then obviously league's a very territorial game in terms of at the start of the game, you see boys just trying to win territory. So yeah, that's in terms of decision making, I feel like it's not too different. And for me, I'm still learning all the cues and I'm still learning what I'm looking for. But I find it's the same when you feel like you're on, you're like, yeah, I want the ball. When it's not on, you just tell the boys kind of just directing. So